Hello, everyone, and welcome in to the first episode of Constellation Crew for the spring of 2022. It is hard to believe it is already 2022. Oh my gosh. My name is Greg Gallagher, and as always, we're coming to you live from the Brown Planetarium here at Ball State University in the winter wonderland that is Muncie, Indiana today. And joining me this semester, we've got some returning faces. If you watched Constellation Crew from last semester, you'll recognize Madeline, who is a graduate student with me here at Ball State. And if you remember way back about a year ago to the spring of 2021, you'll remember Nicolette and Caleb. Caleb's a senior here at Ball State and is in his last semester. Congratulations, Caleb. Really excited for you. And Nicolette is in her junior year. We're really excited to be getting back to the swing of Constellation Crew this semester and to bring you guys some really, really fun and really interesting episodes that we've got coming up as well. So how the heck are you guys doing on this wonderfully snowy and cold January Friday evening?
Love the snow on the ground.
Love the snow? Man.
Yeah. I was born in January, bro.
No,
I was born in January too, but that doesn't mean I love the snow. It's not true.
I
did.
I was born in June. I'm more of a summer guy. So.
For the longest time, this is 100% true. For the longest time, I loved winter. Winter was my favorite season, but in 1 year, I actually dropped 60 pounds, and my body could not handle cold anymore. Like as soon as I lost all of that fat, like the heat that I could contain in my body was just like, nope, like we're good. No, like I was the kind of kid that in high school would wear shorts, right? Like when it was negative 20 degrees outside. But now like if it's like 50 degrees out, I have to be in a hoodie and a coat and a hat and like bundled up and ready to go. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
So you were like Kyle is now.
Yes. So we've got a graduate student here at Ball State named Kyle, and yeah, he wears shorts all of the time. I saw him in sweats the other day though, and it was the craziest thing. But no,
It was epic.
So we've got a couple different updates for you guys before we get started on our show. The first one is if you watched the last episode of Constellation Crew from last semester. And if you haven't, I would highly recommend going to check it out because we had a lot of fun. Me, Riley, and Madeline did a Build a Grinch episode. So it's kind of like Hangman, but, you know, less morbid. And we had a vote at the end to see who drew the best Grinch, right? And our very own Madeline won that vote with this drawing of the Grinch. I was very jealous. Mine was a little angrier than this, but Madeline, I was very impressed.
I was just angry that didn't win the contest.
What contest?
He lost his Christmas spirit.
Oh yeah, because we drew the heart. That's right. Yeah, we drew the heart. Yep. No, you're right. So anyway, that's number one, and that was a good little late birthday present for you too, right, Madeline? Because your January birthday was just 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, it was a great birthday present to win the Grinch contest.
Very nice.
Guess my drawing skills are somewhat okay.
Did you do anything special for your birthday?
I went out for ice cream with my friends and.
Oh, where did you get ice cream from? This is very important to me.
See, when we did, it was late at night, so we went to Culver's.
Sure.
But
okay.
That's a nice place.
In a stroke of serendipity, the flavor of the day was mint Oreo, and my favorite ice cream flavor is mint chocolate chip, so it was meant to be.
Okay. Very nice. I love it. You know, there's an ice cream place here. I don't remember what it's called. This doesn't matter to the people listening, obviously. But there's this ice cream place that's downtown here in Muncie. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like unbelievably good.
Text me after the show and I will go.
Yeah, for sure.
31 flavors, Baskin Robbins.
So,
what?
You know, the other major update that we have, and Caleb actually brought this to our attention when we were kind of planning out what we were going to do and thinking about what we were going to start with. And Caleb, obviously, because Caleb is unbelievably smart and just has this idea, it has amazing ideas, was like, hey, why don't we talk about the James Webb Space Telescope? Because some interesting stuff just happened with it, right? And so we thought it would be really cool to start this show with just kind of a brief little update on the JWST and what it's, where it's at, what was that big update, and then, where we might go from here. So before we kind of talk about the big update that just happened, Caleb, why don't you take us through some of the major steps that have gotten the JWST all the way out to where it's at now?
So, as people might have heard recently, actually, the James Webb Telescope actually finally reached its the position where it's meant to take astronomical observations, which is known as the L2 Lagrange point, which we'll get to later just a little bit. But basically, this is the point where it will be making majority of its observations, and its primary mirror segments have all been fully extended from their launch position, and now it is in this process of basically calibration, but more importantly, cooling the telescope detectors down, because most people might not realize this, but like actually telescopes detectors need to actually be very extremely cold in order to reduce any kind of noise in any images that they take. So often they'll be a lot of telescopes will have like things that chemicals that will cool it down, like and here they're trying to for the next few weeks they'll be cooling down the telescope so as to make so they make their first observations. And for the next few weeks they'll also be doing for a period of time they're doing their calibrations until we can actually take scientific images.
So when you say we had to unfold the mirror, what are you talking about there? Because like this is something that I thought was really interesting about the James Webb Space Telescope, and something that's really different from Hubble, right? So when you talk about, they're setting up the big mirror and they're unfolding it, like what are we talking about there?
So basically, the telescope when it's first launched it's not launched the way it's supposed to be deployed when it's finally in its observing position. So it has to basically be parts of the mirror have to be like extended while it's traveling to its intended orbital position. So basically the mirror pieces have to be extended like at least, I think around a few centimeters to their correct positions, and also a sun shield has to be deployed to protect the detector from the sun, to make sure that none of the sun's light interferes with any observations in the telescope. So, do
you remember how big the mirror is? I actually don't remember. So but I know it's significantly larger than Hubble's, right? Like I just don't remember exactly how big it is. Does anybody remember?
I wish I could say I remember.
I don't remember exactly, but I do know it has to be. It's pretty big because like telescopes these telescopes, especially in modern day telescopes, have to be really big,
right, in
order to get the best images. So.
Right. Okay, so you mentioned that now it's at this L2 orbit, right? So Madeline, this is kind of your cup of tea here, right? So when we're talking about an L2 orbit, what does that mean? Like explain that to us.
So L2 is actually short for Lagrangian point. So in this case, it's the second Lagrangian point. And what Lagrangian points are, in very simplistic terms, it's where the force of the sun and the force of the earth equal the centripetal, the force required to keep a small object kind of in orbit around in that area. And so basically this has a lot of actually really nice benefits. One of which is this minimizes the amount of like rocket boost to stay in its orbit, so you don't have as much like friction and stuff like degrading the orbit. And then you have its location allows for continuous communication between Earth and via the I think it's the Deep Space Network or whatever, but and JWST, which is great because we can send instructions to JWST all the time.
Right.
Plus, the way the orbit is shaped, it allows for 24/7 science operations because it's out of the Earth shadow and as well.
So when you say it's out of the Earth's shadow, what are we talking about there? What do you mean?
When the when the way like the sun, or because so for if you ever look at like a diagram of the Lagrangian points, the general location of each object, you have the sun, and then you have the Earth, and
Right.
then you have JWST
Yep.
in its orbit. And so this position allows the Earth not to interfere with because if the shadow fell on JWST, then that's a period where we can't get science observations.
Right. So we're basically just trying to minimize, right, the sun's influence on how much data we can collect, right? Because I think I don't remember the exact numbers, but you know, they did calculations on how much time that we've lost from Hubble for specifically, right? Because of that exact issue that you're talking about, right? And you know, it might not seem like a lot every day, you know, it's really not a lot every day, but like, you know, every year that starts to really add up a lot of time that you just, or, you know, it's just totally dead time that you don't have to make those observations. And so that, you know, putting it a little bit farther out to minimize that effect, right, is really important.
Yeah. The one unfortunate thing is the L2 position for the sun and the Earth is about, I think it was 1 million miles away.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that means that if something goes wrong with JWST, it's like $1 billion mistake because we can't very easily go and fix it.
Yeah.
Like with Hubble.
Right. So Nicolette, you know, we've kind of talked about a little bit like how we got here. We did a little bit of L2 stuff, but the big question, right? The $1 million question is what's next, right? When do we finally start to see some of these observations? Because, you know, everybody's really excited about JWST. Everybody was like, oh man, it launched, but then it was like, you know, everybody thought, you know, we were just going to see stuff immediately, you know, or some people did, right? Some people thought we'd see stuff immediately, but not quite, right? So when are we going to be observational? What are some of the other steps we've got to, or operational what are some of those steps we have to get to?
Yeah, so that's again a big thing that was eating away at me, and I was very much like that in the beginning before last semester when I took observational astronomy. I'm like, why can't we just get pictures? You put a telescope up there, it's basically a camera. Someone hit click, let's go.
Right.
But there's a lot more involved when it comes to very big and expensive instruments such as a telescope.
Mm-hmm.
So Caleb mentioned it briefly, but once it gets to that L2 point, there is actually a lot of stuff that this telescope has to do. It has to open up its mirrors and get them angled correctly and fit perfectly together. It's kind of just like unshelling itself. It's like a butterfly. It's in the chrysalis
metamorphosis.
stage. Yeah, it's in the chrysalis
like
stage right now.
Yep.
And so it needs to cool down at the right temperature so that everything can function properly. It needs to get its mirrors open, like I said before. And all kinds of other technological stuff. It just needs to sort itself out before it can finally take flight and give us some images. And that may take a couple of months. Because everything, I don't know about y'all, but Madeline said, if anything goes wrong, it's a very expensive mistake. So I'm going to let it take its time because I would like some images.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are you guys most excited about to see from JWST? Like, honestly, I don't know, because I've been thinking about it, right? Like, what do I really want to see? So I'm curious. Do you guys have something you're really interested in seeing?
Honestly, everything.
Everything? You're just gonna look at every data point that's taken?
Yeah.
Well, it's an infrared telescope, so I'm like really excited to like see its capability because like people always tout it as like Hubble's successor, but in a sense it's doesn't do exactly what Hubble does. It's more infrared rather than optical and a little bit of UV.
Right.
For Hubble.
I think I remember the first image Hubble took, like the first image they showed to the public, like just that alone. I mean, I can't wait to see something like of that nature too, with the James Webb Space Telescope. So,
yeah, I'm just really excited. So, so Nicolette, I think the last thing how long, right? How long until we get to see some images?
That is definitely a wonderful question. And it's kind of hard to answer. The best
Right.
I can give everyone is it may take about 6 months.
Okay.
We're probably not going to see anything until the flowers start blooming in the summer and spring. So I'm willing to wait. I'm going to be a little impatient, but we'll muddle through.
We'll get there. Yep.
I would just like to see some James Webb's data. I'm really excited. For those who went to Astronomy Slam last semester.
Yep, last semester.
I did a presentation on exoplanets. That is my big thing. I love exoplanets.
Nicolette won as well. Just so
Now
everybody
that I
knows,
think about
Nicolette
it,
won.
We have everyone here.
That is
who
true.
was there.
All of the
Yeah.
presenters from Astronomy Slam were there for sure.
Right.
Way to call me out
Everyone's
for not
still-
winning too. Like, thank you. Like, I'm trying to hype up Nicolette, and you're like, oh yeah, we were all there. We all lost other than Nicolette. Like,
I think
man,
we all won something. Like, you know.
Yeah.
that's true. That is
Yeah.
very true.
We
I
all
still-
won a- we all won
Over
a-
there, I have my little like best visuals trophy.
Very
Can't see
nice.
it, but it's there.
I love it.
I would like James Webb to give me some more exoplanet data because I feel it's something that no one really studies or likes to talk about, but
Yep.
it's very fun. So I'm excited.
All right, guys. So, the major part of our program tonight. Thank you guys for those wonderful updates. By the way, they were great. So one of the the big part of our program tonight was going to be, I really wanted to allow everybody to share something very personal about astronomy and what we love, but through the guise of Constellation Crew, right? Because we are the Constellation Crew, so we want to talk about some constellations. And so what I asked all of our crew members to do, so I asked all of them to think about what their favorite constellation is that we could see here in Muncie, or in the Northern Hemisphere, right? That we could see in the night sky, and really kind of talk about why it's our favorite constellation and pick maybe one really cool thing that's a part of that constellation, right? And so I don't know what everybody's answers are, and they don't know what my answer is. And so I'm really excited to kind of get to know a little bit more about everybody. And we're going to kick it off with the birthday girl, Madeline Shepley. We're using Stellarium, which is a free program. I would highly recommend anybody that's really interested in space astronomy to download it. It's one of the coolest things because, like I said, it's a free program, and it allows us to go anywhere through space and time, really, which is kind of like a mini planetarium in that way, right? And so right now, in Stellarium, we are in Muncie, Indiana. We've got this little virtual ground, because obviously if it was actually right now, this ground would be totally covered in snow here in Muncie. But we're facing the south, and right now it's about 6:15, 6:20-ish. And so you can't really see anything, right? Because the sun is still up. It's still setting over here in the west. And we can start to see some of these little stars popping up. So one of the things that Stellarium allows us to do is not only can we go forwards in time, but as we're going forwards in time, we can also turn off the atmosphere. And so when you turn off the atmosphere, you get some of that light pollution out. You can really start to see a lot of these stars that are usually invisible to our eyes, right? And we've got this band of stars right here coming up. And what is that band, crew?
The Milky Way.
That is the Milky Way, right? So that's part of our, or that is the galaxy that we're a part of, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward just a little bit longer to about 9-ish p.m. tonight. And because we're talking about the constellations that we will see here in Muncie, I'm going to go ahead and turn the atmosphere back on because it allows us to really highlight some of the constellations and some of the stars a lot better, right? So Madeline, birthday girl, why don't you go ahead and start us off? We are looking directly in the south. It is 9:25 tonight. What are we looking for your favorite constellation?
So my favorite constellation is Orion the Hunter, and low-key, a huge reason for that is because it's very easy to see during my birthday month. Like, you go outside, you look up, and there he is.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I love that something that like you can pretty much anywhere point out, unless you're in a city, you can point out. And so Orion is the easiest kind of way to find Orion is you look in kind of like the southern sky and you see this hourglass shape. You have 2 stars at the top and then 3 in the middle for his belt. And then you have 2 for kind of like the end of his, like, I don't know, battle skirt. I don't know what you want to call it, but
I like
that's
battle
kind of
skirt.
the easiest.
Allows him to move. I like it.
Well, like I'm just like imagining like the Romans like prancing around in like their, uniforms and
Prancing
stuff.
around. Jeez.
I watched a lot of like things about the Romans when I was growing up because my dad loved the Romans. But
Did Romans prance a lot?
maybe
No,
I don't
okay.
know. I didn't live like 1500
I would say
years ago.
spread.
That's fair. That's
I
fair.
always thought.
So we
I
got
always thought
this.
I
Go ahead, Caleb. You're good.
always thought that where the skirt is, like the bright star there below the belt, that was like those were like his like those were like his his feet. Like that bright star on the other side of there was actually his feet. Like
Well, it depends
I-
on how you draw them, right? Like, there's a lot of different ways to draw these constellations. So we
for
got
sure.
I always
this.
thought of like the line the skin he's holding right there. You look right there, holding in his left arm right there. I always thought of it as like he's like holding a bow, like like he was holding like holding a bow.
I think there are actually some depictions of Orion where he is actually holding a bow, right? Because he's a hunter.
Definitely.
Madeline. Okay, so we got this hourglass figure. I like it.
Yeah. And so like the kind of big stars
Mhm.
that you can see in Orion is you can see Betelgeuse from our vantage point, you can see it in the left. It's kind of like his armpit area.
Yep.
And fun thing about Betelgeuse is that Betelgeuse is very red, so that like makes Betelgeuse very obvious. And back in the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, Betelgeuse was kind of in the news because Betelgeuse was dimming, and I was in my stellar astrophysics class in undergrad, and my professor, she's all about stars, and so she would always bring up Betelgeuse in class.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to her. But like
Nice.
she would just like talk about like what was possibly going on with it, and so it's kind of just like fun to talk about an actual like famous star in my stellar astrophysics class.
Nice.
So, but one of my favorite things besides Betelgeuse is if you go to right below his belt, there is kind of like this like streak. Depending on like how visible, like clear things are and like how much light pollution you are, you can kind of see like a dot at the end of that.
So we're talking about what, right here?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's often referred to as Orion's sword, but there are actually several objects in there. And one of my favorites is the Orion Nebula. And it is a star forming region. It's actually really, really close to Earth, which is fun. It's about 1,500 light years away. And you have like a whole bunch of these like stars that like point to, but it's all the like little baby stars are in there.
Nice.
And something that I thought was really cool when I was looking up stuff about the Orion Nebula is a lot of ancient cultures had like myths about the Orion Nebula. And one of the ones that I thought was really cool and just very fitting, knowing today that it is a star forming region, is that the Maya thought that it represented the cosmic fire of creation.
Oh wow. Yeah, that is kind of funny,
very
right?
fitting.
It's very on the nose, yeah, for Orion.
Yeah.
Nice.
The Mayans were kind of sharp sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, for sure. All right. So, next up we've got mine, and I'm really excited to talk about mine because I was never interested as a kid. And this is what's really funny, right? Is that a lot of times when you talk to people that are in astronomy or astrophysics, right? They always talk about how they loved stars as a kid. Like growing up, everybody loved stars. I did not. I could not have cared much less about stars or about science in general, honestly. This is not even a joke. Until my junior year of high school, I never would have thought I wanted to be a literally I wanted to be a social studies teacher up until my junior year of high school when I took physics. And so it's really funny, right? And what's really funny about that is that because I didn't really care about the night sky, I never really learned a whole lot of the constellations. And like many, I thought, that there were other constellations that don't really exist, which we'll get to here in just a second as to what I mean. So for my favorite constellation, you've got to look at the southern hemisphere in Orion, and about 9:30 tonight is when we're looking. And you have to spin all the way around till we're looking toward the northern hemisphere. Or the northern direction, not hemisphere. Geez, I keep screwing that up. And already, and one of the reasons that I like to leave the atmosphere on is because it really highlights one of the most common things in the night sky that people always look at, right? And that's this shape right here, right? Looks like a spoon, right? Or a dipper. Yep, right. So what am I talking about here, crew?
Big Dipper.
Talking about the Big Dipper, right? Absolutely. So that was like the only thing I knew as a kid was the Big Dipper. And so it's the only thing I ever looked for specifically in the sky as a kid. And so that's always been something that really, really just resonated with me for some reason. Now that I'm actually in astrophysics, to be thinking about, thinking back to when I was a kid and just remembering all of the times that was the only thing that I could see and could point out. But the Big Dipper is not really a constellation, right, crew? What's the Big Dipper called?
Ursa Major.
Asterism.
Okay, so I got two different answers there, and I love it because I didn't ask that question correctly, right? So both of them are correct, okay? Caleb's was the one that I was expecting, right? And that's that it's called an asterism, right? So an asterism is something that we name, but isn't exactly a constellation, right? It's actually a part of the constellation. So then, Nicolette and Madeline, what constellation is the Big Dipper a part of?
Ursa Major.
Ursa Major, right? Yeah. And Ursa Major is the Big Bear, right? And so when I actually learned, and this is the other thing that just makes it really cool to me, is that when I learned that the Big Dipper was part of a bear constellation, I loved it because it's one of my favorite animals. Like, I love grizzly bears. They've always been one of my favorites. And so that kind of, again, just made this really, really cool connection with me, and was just something that I, was able to, really make that personal connection to the night sky. And I just thought it was, providence that it just happened to be part of a constellation that was one of my favorite animals. And so I love Ursa Major. And Ursa Major is actually one of the constellations that we call circumpolar, right? Where you can actually see Ursa Major and the Big Dipper multiple times throughout the year, right? It's not just a winter constellation. We typically think of things like Orion, right, as a winter constellation, because it's just really easier to find and see in the winter. Whereas Ursa Major is one of those that, we call circumpolar. So just really cool. I thought it's just really funny to remember back to when I was bad at science and math, and wanted to be a high school social studies teacher and teach international relations. And it's just really funny to think of that time and where I am now. And so it's just cool to reflect on that,
You're gonna make me cry, Greg, because my favorite high school teacher, shout out to Nick Johnson, very much like you, wanted to be a social studies teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And his counselor said, oh, by the time you graduate, there is no jobs for a history or social studies teacher whatsoever. They're all taken.
Yeah.
He said, oh, what's available? Chemistry or math? Tried chemistry, blew up the lab the third day.
Yep.
And he settled on math. And now he is the most wonderful math teacher I've ever known. So you guys are the same person.
That's crazy. That's funny.
Those
All right, Nicolette. So I've taken us back to the south. So we're facing the south. We're looking, remember, there's Orion here. We've got Betelgeuse up here, right? That red star kind of looks yellowy here, right? And Nicolette, I want to ask you, what is your favorite constellation and how the heck do we find it?
Okay, so my favorite constellation is Hydra, or the water snake, or the snake constellation.
The water snake.
It can be hard to find.
Is it, hold on, is it poisonous?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
I don't
Don't touch it so we don't have to find out.
Okay, deal. I
I
will
think
not
the-
touch
Here we
the
go.
constellation. Just
I
for you,
think the Hydra
Madeline.
in the
I
Greek
will
legends
not.
was actually had like a venomous breath or venomous venom.
Oh well, that's the Greek myth.
yeah.
but-
so-
I love snakes, so I'm gonna say it's not because I love snakes.
Alright, so where the heck is Hydra? I wanna see it. Where are we going?
Okay, so you can use many constellations. Let's use Orion since Madeline pointed out Orion for us. I actually did see Hydra by Ursa Major as well, but Orion has a lot of bright stars for us.
Right.
So let's go up to Betelgeuse.
Yep.
And you can use that star or the belt, but I like using the bigger star because it's easier to see for me.
Perfect.
And you just make a straight line from there.
Which
and
direction am I
eventually-
going? West or east?
Oh, we are going east.
East.
So we're
All
gonna-
right.
We're going to go east, and eventually, once you keep going east, you're going to see a question mark. That is not Hydra. If you go back a little west, past the question mark, if you go west
So we're talking
again,
about this
Hydra
backwards
is-
question mark right here, right?
Yes.
So this is actually a famous constellation too, right? What constellation is this?
Leo the lion.
Leo,
Yes.
right?
Brr.
So we
Leo
got to
the lion.
find Leo. Okay, so step 1, find Orion. Step 2, make a beeline east till we hit that backwards question mark. We got Leo the lion. And just so everybody can see the wonderful artwork that Stellarium does, we've got Leo the lion. And yeah, hey, Ursa Major, look at that. Oh man, adorable. Okay, Nicolette, I'm so sorry. So where are we
Oh, you're
going? So we got that Leo the lion.
Yes, and then I said the wrong direction. I was thinking west. You just go back south again a little bit from that question mark.
Mhm.
It's kind of hard to see, but once you put the constellations back up, around that area where your mouse is where Hydra is. And coincidentally, the head of Hydra is up. So you're kind of looking for those 3 stars. If you zoom in just a little bit, it kind of makes a box sort of shape. It's not a nice box. It's kind of a weird box, but that is the head of Hydra. There we go. Okay, cool. Now I can see the box. But that is Hydra. It is the largest constellation in the night sky. And I mean that literally. It is quite large.
Yep.
You can't even, more than half of it is in the southern hemisphere. That is
Wow.
a very small piece of it.
Wow. See, I thought Draco was one of the large.
It is one of the largest, yes. It has a very similar shape with the same head and then just trailing down afterwards. And I also think that Draco is a dragon, yes, but it kind of has a serpent look to it.
So Draco is
Yes.
over here in the north. So it's right here at the northern horizon. Yep. All right. So we've found Hydra. Super proud of us. We started at Orion, came to this backwards question mark of Leo, right, and then drew that line, found the head of Hydra. Okay, Nicolette. So why Hydra? What's going on? Please don't cry.
Oh, I won't. We're good. There are a lot of things going on with Hydra, and it's really hard for me to settle. So we're gonna briefly bullet through like 2 of them that I really think. One of them's really funny. So there is something called the Pinwheel Galaxy that a lot of people may have seen. Don't Google it just yet because that's the OG, the original. But
So I shouldn't try to find it? Is that what you're telling me?
you can find the southern pinwheel, which is actually in Hydra. So there's the original pinwheel, and then they found the southern pinwheel in Hydra, and they're like, oh, that looks like the Pinwheel Galaxy. We already gave that to a galaxy. Let's call this one the southern one. And so,
Wow.
I don't
it's
even know
going
where
to
I'm
the
at right
Astronomy
now.
and really
Okay,
creative.
wait.
at
Can't even
naming
see it.
things.
Nope. It's got to
Nope.
be all the way wrapped around. Sorry.
yeah, that's probably at the
Yeah.
end tail of Hydra, but that's
Yeah.
fine. But I think that's really funny that they call it the southern pinwheel because it's near Hydra.
Mhm.
And they're like, oh, well, here we go. Because they look very, very similar. Another thing going on for Hydra is that it has something called the Hydra Cluster,
Oh,
which is a cluster of galaxies, 157 of them.
157?
Yes. Oh, we might be in Earth again. Darn
Dang it. Yeah, we're in the Earth. Sorry.
That's the tough part about Hydra, is that it's so big. Most of the stuff is towards the end of its tail.
I wonder if I
But-
can
Yeah, they're
find it
just stealing
this
all
way,
our
though.
fun.
Oh yeah, if we can move time a little bit.
Oh,
Oh,
found it. I got you. Don't even worry
Yeah,
about it.
that-
Yep.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Look
I
at
love
me.
doing that in Stellarium.
Whee! Dang.
look at that.
Going on a magic carpet ride.
Yeah.
Hydra Cluster. Yep, that is one heck of a
Whole new
cluster. Let me
world.
pause this since I'm so zoomed in. All right.
So for
Wow.
our viewers, we have a lot of clusters in astronomy, and I mean a lot. There's stellar clusters with a lot of stars in the same group, but a galaxy cluster means that a bunch of galaxies are in the same area orbiting each other. And if we can remember, galaxies have millions or even billions of stars in them.
Mhm.
So now you have 157 galaxies all in one spot, each one having between 1 million to a billion stars in it or
Wow.
more.
Really puts into perspective like how many stars are out there, right? That's amazing.
That's one of my favorite things.
Yep.
And I thought I was so smart as a child because I said, space must be really large, so there must be more than just the stars that we're seeing in the sky. So when someone told me about galaxy clusters, I was like, see, I knew it.
Yeah.
I didn't discover it, but my brain was like, yes, I did.
That's
I knew
awesome.
before everyone else.
That's the coolest stuff. And the really cool thing about Stellarium too, just for our viewers, is these are some of the real images that were taken by Hubble. So Stellarium leverages a lot of what Hubble has been able to take pictures of, and a lot of what we've been able to get optical images of just in general as well, right? And puts real images. So when we're zooming into this cluster, the Hydra cluster, when we were zooming in earlier to the Orion Nebula, like these are real pictures that we've been able to get, and I think that's just amazing.
Mhm. Oh, look at her in her glory.
All right, yep, we got all of Hydra, not all of Hydra, but some of Hydra.
No.
So this right
Yeah.
now, this is about 11 o'clock tonight. You can get a little bit more of Hydra in the southeast, right?
Mhm.
It's really cool. Okay, so what else about Hydra? Do you have something else?
I do.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
think it's pretty cool. One of the stars, and I don't think we can see it. I'm not
Okay.
sure where it is in the location, but one of the stars, and excuse me for pronunciation, science has a lot of big words. It's called R Hydrae.
Mhm.
Spelled kind of funny, but I think that's how it's pronounced, Hydrae. And what's
Yeah,
cool about it,
Latin, I believe.
yes, thank you. So a lot of people assume that since space is a vacuum, that it's empty. There's nothing there, aside from the stars and stuff like that. But in between stars, there's nothing. That's not true. There's actually a lot of other particles and dust and stuff in between all the stars. Just because it's a vacuum doesn't mean that there's nothing in there. I mean, if you've ever seen a marshmallow in a vacuum, it's kind of cool. There's a video about that.
Ooh, I want to see that now.
Someone
it's
should
kinda
post that in
cool.
the comments.
Um, so in the vacuum of space, there's a lot of dust and stuff floating around, and stars actually emit other kind of particles as they're just doing their thing, living life. They're releasing gas and dust into the universe as well. So our Hydrae actually has a weird, funky thing going on with it, where for the viewers, feel free to Google Spitzer. Spitzer took a picture of this going on,
Mhm.
is that there's a bend of gas and dust around this star, kind of in a bow shape, because our Hydrae is moving at, I believe, what was it, 50 kilometers per second? I believe it's 50 kilometers per second. It's moving really, really fast. And because of that, it's not only emitting gas and dust, it's also pushing the gas and dust in
Mhm.
space, and it's bending it in that shape,
Wow.
which I think is super cool. And we got a picture of it. So feel free to take a look around on the internet for that.
Yeah, one of us could put how to spell our Hydra in the comments afterwards so
Yeah.
that people know how to spell it.
There
No,
we
for
go.
sure.
Yeah, I like that.
All right.
Because Latin is hard.
So rounding us out, I'm going to go back to Orion. We're, again, toward the south direction here. And we've got Caleb coming in last but certainly not least, right, with his favorite constellation and story. So Caleb, I'm looking at Orion. We're toward the southwest. Where the heck am I going from here?
All right, so you could let's start from the belt.
Yep, I'm at the belt.
If you know where the belt is, that's the first step. Now, if you go down towards the southeast, you'll find a bright star that's brighter than any star, not amongst the surrounding stars.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually the brightest star in the sky after the sun, known as Sirius, which is part of my favorite constellation, known as Canis Major.
Canis Major.
Canis Major for Caleb.
For
It's actually funny because my
adorable.
name translates to loyal, faithful, and dog. So
And Canis Major is the big dog,
dog.
right?
and my
Attaboy.
favorite animals.
You're the big
favorite
dog
animal-
around here, Caleb. You're a senior. You're the big dog. Don't worry. You're
My
good.
favorite animal actually is wolves. Are wolves, but which are related to dogs. So
Yep. They're the OG dogs, man. They're
Yeah,
the
the
they're the
OG
dogs before dogs
the original.
existed.
The Og dog.
So, but another reason I love this constellation is because of the name of the main star, Sirius, the brightest star, Sirius, which, as some people might know, is a name for a character in Harry Potter known as Sirius Black.
Okay, Caleb, what house are
actually-
you?
I am a Ravenclaw.
You're a Ravenclaw?
Same.
Ravenclaw.
I'm a Ravenclaw too.
Nicolette, what are you?
So,
It depends. Pottermore says Gryffindor. Every other test I've taken says Slytherin.
Man.
But I
Wait,
So,
hold up. Slytherin?
oh, I'm actually curious. Hold on. I'm very curious to know. Can anybody guess what mine is?
oh, are you a Hufflepuff?
I am a
Okay.
Hufflepuff.
I
Atta boy, let's go.
No.
So you know
I'm
me
gonna
too
take
well.
you for a Slytherin.
Nope. I am a
you look-
Hufflepuff. Yep.
I was saying I could see you in Hufflepuff.
Yeah, man.
I
Hey,
want
man.
proof.
I have
You're the
Hufflepuff
loyal, dependable
Quidditch.
friend.
I've got a Hufflepuff Quidditch socks and the Hufflepuff Quidditch sweater. Like I'm rocking my house sometimes.
I-
Don't worry.
I've got for
Which team?
Christmas. For
Huh?
Christmas, my sister got me the pendant of the Deathly Hollow symbol.
Nice.
So
Very
and she
nice.
got me also a chocolate frog.
Mhm.
So I now got my own chocolate frog card. So
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome.
You should join the Quidditch team, Greg.
I'll consider it if I have time. The
You
life of a grad student is rough, let me tell you.
can confirm. Also, I'm not shocked that Nicolette brought up Quidditch. You knew it was gonna happen if Harry Potter got brought up.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Nicolette is on the Quidditch team here at Ball
No,
State and
it's-
is one of the best players and has broken like 17 people's noses, so it's fine.
I wanted to say it before, but you guys mentioned before the constellation Draco, which is
Yep.
also another name for another character in Harry Potter known as Draco Malfoy.
True
so
story.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Alrighty, guys. Well, that is all we have for today's episode of Constellation Crew. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're gonna sign off here. Any other thoughts before we sign out, crew?
Stay warm out there.
Stay
It's chilly.
warm out there. That is
Yeah.
true.
Love the snow, but it is chilly.
It is.
Shout out to my mom who definitely shook the snow globe, as what my family likes to say, just for me, because I love snow. As long as I'm inside, I love snow, and she definitely shook the snow globe just for me.
All right.
Month.
I think that's a good ending point. Shout out to Nicolette's mom and have a good weekend, everybody. We will see you back next week for a really cool episode. We're starting a new series where we talk about the constellations through the guise of different ancient cultures. And so we're really excited to bring that to you guys. Check it out next week with us and have a good weekend. Stay warm.